Hello everyone, welcome to the channel again. So today we are going to study about the next author who is Aristotle, and he is the next critic. In the last video we studied about Plato. Plato told us that literature is dangerous. It is a copy of a copy. It is talking about the imitations. It is emotion over reasons, and the poet should be ideally escorted out from the ideal society. These were the claims that were put forward by Plato. Now imagine you are a student of Plato, okay, and you have sat with him, understand him, respected him, learned from him, and inside, deep down your heart, you say that I disagree with all of the things that this person is saying. The person who was going through with all this, that was Aristotle. Aristotle is the first person who talks about all this in the most serious and systemized manner. He wrote Poetics, and in which he tells each and everything about tragedy, poetry, and literature. So let us get into it. But before that, we must know that who is Aristotle. Aristotle was born in 384 BC in a Greek town called Stagira. When he was 17, he came to Plato to study. But he stayed there for 20 years. But when Plato died, he became the teacher of the person who would go on to become the best rulers in the history, Alexander the Great. Aristotle was not just a literary critique. He also studied about biology, ethics, politics, logics, physics, literature, all at one place. And he did all these things when he wrote Poetics, when he talks about tragedy, poetry, and literature in the most comprehensible manner. So, what did he do? He analyzed all of the things that were said by Plato, and he explained that why he has different point of view than Plato. So Plato made two claims. First was that everything is a copy of a copy, everything is imitation. So it is the weakened point which we can have. The second was that it is not only about imitation, it is also about how it makes you feel. Aristotle came, he analyzed all the things that were said by Plato, and he told that imitation, which is also known as mimesis, which is a Greek word, he says that imitation cannot be the weakest point. In fact, it is a strengthened point which we can ever have. Because since our childhood, we are learning each and everything through imitation. We are learning our instinct through imitation. We are learning to eat through imitation. We cannot say that imitation is the weakest point. In fact, on the other hand, we can say that imitation is the path towards the deepest understanding. So, Aristotle replied in the most calmest and quietest manner to his own teacher. The second point, which was made, that how poetry makes you feel, that is the bad thing according to Plato. So Aristotle came, he took this point, and he said that, for example, if we are watching a movie and I have been burying all of the stress, all of the emotions inside me, and while watching the movie I relate with some of the things, and then I let my emotions out by crying. So what does that mean? Aristotle says that it is emptying your dangerous emotions, while Plato is saying that it is filling the dangerous emotions inside you. But Aristotle is saying that while it is emptying my dangerous emotions, the stress which was buried inside me for years, so it is a medicine. How can you say that it is a poison? However, he used the very calm language to describe all these things. So these were the two important arguments that were made by Plato, which were very slightly and calmly answered by Aristotle. Other than that, moving forward, Aristotle also talked about the elements of tragedy, that what are the important elements for a tragedy. And he talked about 6 elements, which were plot, character, thought, diction, spectacle, song. He told that plot is the soul of the tragedy. Plot is the most important component in the tragedy. Not beautiful language, not beautiful thoughts, nothing. Plot is important there. Aristotle believed that it is important for a plot to have a proper beginning, middle, and end. Like, we should know if a part is removed from a plot, then we should know that there is something which is absent here. If we have a story and if we remove any of the part, any of the scene, and we are not feeling that if it is removed, then that is the correct part which is removed. We should not add something which, if removed, will feel nothing at all. He also described two key plots which are important for a tragedy, which is peripeteia and anagnosis. Peripeteia is reversal of fortune. For example, in the starting, a character is there who is at the top, and then suddenly he is seeing the fall. Second part is anagnosis, that means discovery and recognition. For example, there is a character and who didn't know something from the starting, and he gets to know that often too late. That is anagnosis. These are the two key plots that are important for a plot to be powerful in the structure of tragedy. The second part is character. The second element is character. The character that is in the tragedy, that should not be like the most virtuous and should not be like a very poor character or most villain character in there. It should be somewhere lie in the between. It should lie somewhere in the between. For because it can arise fear and pity in the person who is seeing the tragedy. Fear because we recognize something of ourselves in them. Pity because they fully did not deserve this. And this combination produces catharsis. The third element is thought. That what are the thoughts that has been portrayed in the tragedy? It about human fate, existence. It should be clearly indicated in the play, in the tragedy. The fourth point is the diction, the language, and the quality of writing. That is diction. It means how words are chosen, clarity and appropriateness of the words, that is considered on the fourth number. Then the fifth point is song or melody. Now, the chorus that has been there, or the music or melody, that has been considered less important than all the three or four elements which I have already told you. The last element is spectacle. For example, the mask, costume, all these things that they are wearing, this is the least important in the elements of tragedy. So these were the elements that were portrayed by Aristotle to show that these are the important elements for a tragedy to be powerful. And this is how the all things should be structured in a particular way to have the biggest influence and to have the proper sequence. Now, there comes one another point in which Plato said that history is more philosophical than poetry. Aristotle claimed that poetry is more philosophical than history. Aristotle said that history tells you that what happened, specific events, specific place, specific incidents. But poetry could tell you that what is possible, what could be probable, what human beings are capable of under certain circumstances. It deals with the particular but with universal. And the universal is more important than the particular. So, according to him, poetry is more philosophical than history because it reaches for the universal truth. Aristotle also briefly discussed about comedy. He told that comedy is comedy is an imitation of the people who are worse than average. Not in an evil way, but in a way which is laughable, which is ridiculous. Its effect is laughter and enjoyable rather than pity and fear. Many scholars believed that Aristotle also wrote a book other than poetics about comedy. And it is believed that that book is lost to history, so we no longer talk about that book. So that is all, that is the main point. It talks about the comedy. So these were the points that were made by Aristotle, and in most of the points he talked about the points that were claimed by Plato, and he took his reasons, his way of telling the stories to tell audience and the readers that how these are important perspectives to be aware of. So till now we studied that Plato said poetry is dangerous, Aristotle said poetry is valuable. In the next video we are going to talk about Longinus, who will study that what makes poetry sublime, what makes it so important that it takes your breath away. So in every part of the video you are going to study some important characteristics, some important perspectives. So that is it for this video. See you soon in the next video.